Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
So guys, I want to switch gears a little bit if I can. I just have a couple quick questions for you, Tommy, and this was also something that we talked about when we had first spoke. You were talking about people asking you which dog training school they should attend, and this is kind of a branch off of the whole, like, do what feels right for you, because there's so many types of schools of dog trainers out there. And I also wanted to touch a little bit about the fact that you guys are actually working with a lot of ABC students, which is awesome because they're not even necessarily huge fans of like corrective methods, but you've gotten so many so many students wanting to go request that they were like, all right, well, let's do it, and I think that's great. So would you mind riffing on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we yeah, it's basically what happened is ABC had reached out and they said, hey, we've gotten a lot of requests to, for you to be a mentor. And I didn't really know anything about the ABC. And so I said, yeah, I mean, anything to help, let me know what you need from me. And then they just did like an interview with me and that was it. And it wasn't until you guys told me when we talked that usually doesn't happen for balanced dog trainers. Right. And I had no idea. But yeah, we get a lot of ABC students in from all over, and we're always happy, and they spend a lot of time with my staff more than anything, to be honest. But it is always good to help, and work with, and a lot of them are people older, like that are retired and they just want to work with dogs. So it's always nice to try to roll them into the job.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of ex-military people that use the GI Bill to go through school for dog training, and then they I've seen a lot of that too.
Yeah. So it's been cool. That's awesome.
That's
my 2 cents on that. Yeah, it's been cool.
I love that.
But yeah, when it comes to, there's so many different schools in dog training. I liked your response to where, I think exactly what you said was like, somebody will ask me, hey, is this a good school? And you're like, I don't know, is it? Like, it depends on what you want to do, And I'm like, yeah, I can appreciate that because it's a real answer. It's not some bullshit like, yeah, go for it, put your head in there. And, I think that's valuable to keep in mind. There's so many different facets to the dog training world. And that kind of will tie us into the whole overall art and what we've been trying to do, Brent and I, as far as how do you go about this stuff moving forward? How do you continue to push the dog training game moving forward? And, I want to let Brent dive into kind of the art of dog training, but I just want to ask you one last question that I've been asking everybody, Tyler and Michael Ellis, and I intend to ask everyone else. The term balanced dog training has become so convoluted almost because a lot of people are not necessarily balanced. They use food but hardly, or for one reason or another, they use all the different methods, but they're not necessarily consistent with everything. Do you think that the term balanced is kind of near the end of its life? Should we look to figure another word out?
Like I said before, I never dove in, I never dove into a lot of the politics in dog training, and I still don't. I try to just do my part of I'm gonna put out content and hopefully people like it and whatever. So for me, I never, I don't want to say never, but I do say balanced dog training sometime, but it doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay.
It really doesn't. I'm gonna be honest with you. Balanced dog training doesn't mean anything to me. I think people use it. I think somebody said it to me one time, balanced dog training. I'm like, oh my, yeah, I guess. Whatever, cool, Yeah. For me, it just it doesn't mean anything to me. So it's not significant in my life. I just say but I also have, kind of an advantage because people get to know me for years before they sign up with me or before they come in with a dog for the most part. So I don't have to sell anything. They just go, do your thing, man. Okay, cool. So I don't have to say, back in the day they'd say, what tools, what methods do you use? And we have a receptionist that answers all the phones and stuff, but they may have to answer that question sometimes. But for me, I never get asked, what do you do? What type of trainer are you? So for me, it's not in my vocabulary. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think I don't know, I guess it represents what we do as trainers, but I don't like locking things in. I don't like locking things in. I think it's you're limiting yourself when you say I'm a balanced dog trainer. You fall under a category. As soon as
you're putting yourself in
a box, which everything that I do with even my hair, my dog training, anything, I don't want to put myself in a box. It suffocates me. Don't don't do that to me creatively. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's cool because
Yeah. So that.
sorry, Tyler
sorry,
Muto
go
and
ahead.
Michael Ellis said the exact same thing, which is awesome. It's great to know that everybody's like on the same kind of page. That's cool, man. So many of these guys, I really want to build that network. So many of these guys, and I know Jeff and Sean feel the same way because I've talked to them a lot. More Sean,
Yeah.
but that we're so alike sometimes. It's like we should all just go and like get. Yeah, like
So why
a
don't
big
we
ass
have
dinner
a
or something
bar
one
where we
time.
can
That'd be
all just
awesome.
go to?
Well, I think the ISCP conferences are like that. I've never been to one. I'm a member. Tyler and I used to rap a lot. We used to connect a lot. We're both in New York. So Tyler and I, we're Gucci. We communicate a lot, especially in the beginning. But yeah, and to be honest, like just while we're on this note, I'm actually in the process right now of trying to create something like that.
Okay.
As a business, we are expanding. We've needed a new facility for about 2.5 years. So we are on the search for like the perfect spot. And once we do, it's something that I'm really passionate about to say and invite across the country, across the world, to anybody that wants to come hang out for like 4 or 5 days on like the ranch or the farm or the facility that we end up buying. And I want to just hang out and kick it, coffee in the morning, work some dogs, just clients' dogs. I don't want a lot of, I really want like everybody. I want to create an open invite to everybody in the industry that says, hey, I want all of you guys to come, even if you don't know who I am or anything. Like, I want to hang out. I want to talk. I want to be resourceful. I want to communicate because, like you said, it's very lonely sometimes because you're isolated, because you feel vulnerable because of some of the hate that you get, from and to be honest with you, like for me, I've created this system, and I have a system that I learned from David Goggins on the Joe Rogan podcast.
I love David Goggins. Yeah.
Nice.
But I now have a system to cope and deal with these types of situations, and I'd be happy to share it with you guys. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that I agree with everything that you guys are saying. I know we're all really busy, but I think it would be fantastic if we can all get together. It doesn't have to, I'm just saying that I'm trying to get a piece of property where there's no limits to how many people and what we can do.
I'm down.
And I'd love to be able to like say, hey,
the Canine Trainer Club.
Just like and the thing is like a lot of big industries have that like professional conference.
Yeah, like mixers, conferences. I think just the concept would be cool of like, we don't know, like we could go, like you could
retreat. It's a retreat.
Book out. Yeah, go on a retreat and you don't know who's going to be there, and you'll be like, "Oh, it's so and so." Hey, and we all train dogs together and we all learn. It's like going to a monastery and then leaving and then go like a pilgrimage and then coming back.
And I think the ISCP is like, and having my relationship with my I've known Tyler since he's
president, right?
He's president, and so like, I'd be silly not to like say that that's pretty much what the ISCP is.
Right.
But it's a little bit more. It's a little too formal. For me. There's not a lot of dogs there. I'd really like to like get people like on a ranch and do it, and I'm currently working on that.
And I think what that adds, it adds to this is because it's like, we can talk theory, we can talk all this stuff. It's like let's show each other. It's like show and tell. It's like, let me show you what I just found out, and this and that. We could share ideas.
Well, I think it's cool too because it's like show and tell meets show me, don't tell me. And it's like you put your stuff on display, and it's like, listen, this is what I can do. Here you go. For anybody online that may think, XYZ, here you go. Here's my badass trained dog. Here's my successful kennel. Here's my grind. Here's my story. It works.
Yeah, and I had this envision because like I said, I've been looking at property extensively for a while. I'm like, I want the right one. It's really hard for me because I'm like, oh, that one's an hour away. It's perfect, but I can't do it because it's an hour away. But anyway, like for me, I've just like had this vision because I worked at a wolf sanctuary for about 5 summers, and it was like the most magical place ever. It was self-sustained. There was a lot of farming. There was a lot of agricultural things going on, and then the wolves were just on top of it, which was beautiful. It was in the middle of Colorado. Couldn't be further away from society. It was awesome. But that's always inspired me, and so I kind of want to create something that's a little off the grid, that's out there, and I can just picture 25 dog trainers sitting around a campfire talking about things, and then during the day working 10 different dogs on different things and say, how would you do this? What do you think about this? What's your experience with this? And really just soaking all that in. But I think you guys already have this idea going, and it's great. But I think, just like you said, like, it's for young dog trainers, and that's why I'm like, it's really tough, because when they put content out, it's scary. I do actually, to touch on what you're saying about business, I do a lot of online consulting. Like, I have an online program to train. I actually do quite a bit of dog trainers that we talk about business and stuff, which is great. But I think one of the things that a lot of the dog trainers that I talk to struggle with, and it doesn't matter if they're new or they've been in the business for 20 years, is creating content. And they're like, well, I'm worried about, I'm like, yeah, that's part of it. You're going to put it out. Somebody's going to give you shit. Somebody's going to give you shit.
It's almost a badge of honor at this point.
Yeah. You just, there's some people who can take it, and there's others who just aren't set up for it.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I think, so that pilgrimage, if you go, like, people getting together is also like uplifting, I think, to just say, like,
it's like Woodstock for dog trainers.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man, like, I don't know to what capacity I would necessarily be useful, but I would love to help make that happen. We'll have to stay in touch and see what we can do.
Definitely.
I would love that. All right, that's a beautiful idea. Let's put it on. It's in the
atmosphere.
It's in the atmosphere now. It's in the ether now.
It's in the ether.
It's gonna happen.
All right, let's jump into this, because we kind of touched on it a little bit. So, based on, dog training, it tries to polarize and tries to put people in boxes. In reality, it's like, as a quote unquote, the conceptual idea of a balanced dog trainer, it's like we're technicians. Like, we know how to use more tools than other dog trainers, right? We're open to more methods. We're open to, because there is no box that theoretically we're trying to put ourselves in, we have a whole different series of tools, approaches, reads that are all contextual that we are learning. And it's so funny, because I think it was just a month and a half ago, I saw, on one of your YouTube videos, that it was like, dog training is art, right? That's your new swag.
Yeah, we just put it on on the back of a T-shirt, like our No Bad Dogs thing. We just put it there.
Right. And so this concept, it's so funny. It came up with our interview with Tyler. It came up with our interview with Michael Ellis. And this idea is dog trainers, in essence, are artists, right? And so one thing we asked Tyler was, okay, if dog training is art, what is the color palette? What is the color wheel, right? The red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purples. And he goes, it's the principles of dog training. It's of learning. It's your learning theory. It's your, behavior, or it's your operant conditioning. It's your classical conditioning. It's your reinforcement schedules. That's the colors. Those are the things you're constantly playing with to make different shades of colors, to like blend them together in different ways. He goes, and when you learn those things, he goes, now you know those fundamentals. And then we asked Michael the same question. We said, Tyler said this. Is there anything else you would add to the toolbox of dog training? If we were artists, and the metaphor is like, imagine yourself with a canvas and all these colors and brushes and this and that. He's like, what else is there? And he goes, well, you got to learn the technical skill. You have to learn how to read body language. You have to learn where to put your hands. You have to learn how to hold the leash. You have to do all these things, because you can understand something conceptually through learning theory. But if you physically don't know how to manifest it and have conversations with the dog, or even have conversations with the owners, he's like, you won't be a good dog trainer, right? And so he goes, there's this marriage of theory and there's this marriage of technical skill that has to be put together. And so we see that there naturally is this formation of dog training as an art form, in the same way we would look at martial art masters, the same way we would look at, great dog trainers. I guess a couple things that I want to ask you about is, what is your interpretation of dog training as art?
Yeah, for me, I really wanted to make that merchandise plastered on the back of a T-shirt for my clients, for my peers, for people who have dogs, to realize that this is not a gimmick. This is not a part-time hobby. This is something that is taken very seriously. It's a craft. It's a passion. It's art. So for me, it's and Tyler and Michael are both very, very. I call Tyler the professor. He's there's a lot going on, and
right.
I guess in simpler form, it's I wanted people to just know that dog training is a real thing. It's an art. It's not something like, oh, that's cute, you do, because there is, there's a lot of that too. There's a lot of hobbyist 4-H type dog training on the side, which is nothing wrong with that. But I think that we're living in a space where dog training is so new as a profession. There's the combination of millennials getting a lot of dogs, social media, and people not going to school, and we're creating this new blossomed thing of dog training. It wasn't a thing like 10 years ago. Yeah.
15 years ago?
It wasn't, it wasn't like, it wasn't cool. It wasn't like, and for me,
it wasn't a career. It wasn't a career.
It wasn't a career. And I want to empower people, but not like I do a lot of the things that I do for dog owners. I don't put out content for people who are going to like gauge and judge everything that I do as a human being. I want people to learn. I don't care I just want you as a dog owner to learn. And same thing, people listening to my podcast or your podcast, I want people to know that this is an art. And for me, I guess to really answer your question, it's an expression. That's what art is to me. It's expressional. It's very, it tears me up. I can't breathe sometimes. I get goosebumps when I train. It is the same thing as an artist, as a singer on a stage. Alicia Keys, Elton John, Mick Jagger, singing their passion from the things that, it's the same thing for me when I grab a leash, when I'm working with a dog. So when a singer goes on stage and sings these breakup songs of the things, and they get emotional and they think about the things of why they wrote the song and what it means to them.
There's catharsis.
Yes, there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotion. And for me, it's the same thing when I see a dog that comes in that is, that was me 5 years ago, misunderstood and all this stuff. I feel like all these flashbacks, this emotion. I get choked up. I'm like, I get like, there's this thing in my throat. When a dog comes in wanting to hurt me, I get so excited. I run towards that. Where other people run away, I run too. And for me, that's like there's that expression. And that's the way I talk. That's the way I speak when I even it comes through my YouTube channel, podcasting even more because I have more time. But it's very expressional to me. It's not a game. It's artistic things. And, I always would say too, that I just try to explain to people, too, on the other flip side of explaining dog training as art to me, because I certainly didn't make that up, obviously, but it's something that I wanted to just put out there because I want the consumer to also know that there's many different artists, right?
Right.
So when you go to Pt.2 down the road, or you go to Jan Smith down the road that does rally obedience, she's a different artist than I am. So she's a different chef than me. So you go down there and you're going to have a different meal and a different style from what I'm going to presume. So it also gives me an opportunity to explain to dog owners that what I'm doing, so because as you guys know too, you're probably dealing with some behavioral cases, is I worked with X, Y, and Z dog trainers. I worked with 3 dog trainers. I kind of like roll my eyes at this point. I'm like, we're different. None of us are the same.
Yeah.
And that's the box that the consumer puts us in. So for me, dog training is art. It's for the consumer, the dog owners, to understand that what we're doing is more than a career, or it's more than a hobby. It's more,
it's more than a prop. That's more than something that can be put in a box. Yeah.
But that's but at the same time, there's also probably more than half of the other dog training community that it's not that to them. It is a job. They show up. They clock in. They clock out. They're just lethargic to passion. It doesn't exist in them anymore. And unfortunately, dog owners work with some of those. So when they come to us, I want them to know that when they see No Bad Dogs hanging, my merch, No Bad Dogs, and dog training is art, I want them to know that we're different. I want them to know that I'm going to handle their situation and their best friend differently. I'm going to treat them differently. This is going to be an experience that they've never experienced before, ever.
Right.
And they're going to leave here like, that was different. It's art.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That was beautiful. Yeah. They're going to leave with a beautiful experience. Michael Ellis had a couple tips. So at the end, and we're going to ask you this as well. We asked Michael Ellis, we asked Tyler, we'll do it chronologically. We said, so Tyler, what is your advice out there for up and coming dog trainers? And he answered, he goes, learn to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to listen to the dog, learn to listen to the people. He goes, there's so many times people answer with phrases and sentences that weren't even related to the questions being asked, right? And he says, so the key is you will learn more when you listen, and you'll be able to help more people when you listen. We asked Michael Ellis the same question, and he said, so what advice do you have? He goes, well, there are people who are super goal oriented, right? They want to just get the dog trained. They want to just get, they want to get the end result. They want to make the sale. They want to do all these things. And those people don't tend to have a good time in dog training as a profession, right? He said, however, though, if you love the process, he goes, you spend so much more time in process than you actually do at the end result, right? You spend weeks training a dog just to be able to do a go home lesson with an owner and be like, see, he's great. And then they're like, wow, that's awesome. But it's all those little wins. It's the process of taking the dog out, walking them, working them, seeing the micro improvements day by day. And those little things, he goes, if those things don't drive you, potentially dog training is not the career for you. Right. And I would say that same thing even with owners. Like for me, I love dog training. I love those little wins, but I also love those little wins with people. Right. Those little aha moments. I'm addicted to the aha moments with humans. Where, we've all been there. The reason we keep doing this is because we get different types of paychecks, right? We get emotional paychecks, like where we know we made a difference in that dog's life. So many dogs that, I started off in the shelter where it's like, I literally said, fuck everybody at this shelter. I'm going to go learn to be a dog trainer. I'm going to come back and help all these dogs. Like having a passion like that, where we've kept so many dogs from being euthanized. From going to the shelters, from getting rehomed, from getting mistreated, simply through education. And so I'm going to redirect that question back to you. What advice do you have for up and coming dog trainers that you think would add value to their careers as they grow?
Yeah, I think, a combination of what both Tyler and Michael said, touching on what Tyler said is like, this is an exhausting question because there's so much. So for me, I would say, because we kind of touched base on this earlier, learn as much as you can. Never, like for me, I'm a student, and I say that in almost every video that I put out, that I'm going to learn something from this dog today. That's it. And for me, that's what it's about, is always be a student. And I think that that's what a good artist does. I think that that's what a good craftsman does, is learning, growing, not being stuck inside of a box and being traditional. I think I get a lot of shit for that too, is like, I'm not traditional. There's people even in the balanced dog training world that will give me flack for not being traditional. It's like same team type thing. And it is interesting. So I think just be true to yourself and always be a student, and make sure that when you're getting into the industry, it's really hard to gain an ego really quick. Because every single day of your life, you have 5 to 10 people telling you how much you've changed their life. Sometimes these people are crying. Sometimes these people are hugging each other, hugging you, bringing you gifts, buying you vacation homes for weeks at a time. I mean, buying you flights, giving you personal jet attendances if you'd like. It's a very easy career to get to lose sight of the end goal. Very easy, because you have everybody around you applauding you, and you are helping. And I think that you have to remind yourself and stay grounded. Even for me, to be honest, it is, and I try to be as honest as possible. I always have to, I meditate often to ground myself, to realize why I'm in this business, what I'm doing, because some of the opportunities I get are way outside of my wildest imaginations, the people I work with, the places I go, the things I do. And I always have to, every single night before I go to bed, I take note of who's in the room and how grateful I am for these animals to still be in my life and still be alive. And, Taylor, my partner, who, helps me along the process. And just, so gratuity, I even wrote it down on this piece of paper here, because I always start any conversation with just gratitude of everything that I do. Everything in life, I'm just grateful for. So I think, as a young dog trainer getting into the industry, don't ever get lost and lose sight of the end goal of why you started, and always be a student, and always show gratitude for your natural given gifts. If you were given a gift to be able to innately understand and have the instincts to work with people and dogs, because there's a big difference, run that to the ground with passion, and don't ever lose sight of the gift that you were given, and work really hard and always be grateful. Amen.
Amen. A fucking men, bro. That was awesome. I'm just gonna cut that into its own YouTube video.
I'd love that.
Dope. That was so dope.
I mean it. It's true. It's like it's really easy in the dog training world to gas yourself up because everyone is like,
Oh yeah, and we're talking. We can talk off record real quick because then I just have to do an outro and we're done. I completely agree with you, bro. Like, I'm in LA. I'm in literally 10 minutes from Hollywood, and it gets here. It gets to your ego. It makes you.
It's part of being human.
Right.
It's part of being human, and it's part of, it's funny because always I have to check myself to be like, these people in my life, I'm going to nurture these relationships so that they can help me help dogs. So it's always like, for my nonprofit that I started, it's like, these people are donors, or these people are guests, or these people are things to help push a message. Right. And it's funny because like, you're online and you see all these celebrity dog trainers that promote like, I'm working with Miley Cyrus, or I'm working with this, or I'm working with that. And it's like, we're those celebrity dog trainers that we don't have to say who we worked with. Right. You know what I mean? And it should be that way. There should be that professionalism.
Well, yeah, you don't want to, because you got lucky and you got referred to the right person. Right. You can't bounce your checks off that.
Right.
That's right place, right time. That's all that is.
Yep. And there's a little bit of grace and a little bit of luck and everything that happens. All right, cool, man. Anything else you want to talk about before I sign out?
There's two things that I want to mention to anybody, even if it's one person. The thing that I mentioned that really helped me get over and move on from people talking really bad about you for no reason is the David Goggins thing. That I send it to everybody, my family who's like, I'm really dealing with, because my sister is also an entrepreneur who started her own brand, and she's doing really successful. She's doing great, and so I give her feedback. And one of the big things that helped me is, I don't remember what episode it was, because Goggins has been on the Joe Rogan podcast I think twice.
Yeah.
And so I don't know which one it was, but I remember they were talking about haters, and they were talking about how YouTube specifically brings out the worst demons of hatred, and the people who are trying to get into your soul, twist you up because they are jealous of what you're doing and tear you down. They're very unhappy with themselves. Yeah, and I remember these two dudes are just sitting there laughing, hysterically laughing, because Joe's like, how do you deal with haters? And Goggins just starts laughing hysterically. And he's like, dude, he made it so simple, but it resonated with me and it changed my life. He said, dude, haters are going to come and go when they please. All I do, block, ignore, delete. And I was like, and then I remember asking, I was like, if I did that, people would be like, oh, Tom Davis deleted my comment because I'm right. And then Joe asked like, well, aren't you going to think that, blah, blah. And he said, no, dude, these guys are haters. They literally wake up. They're sitting in the basement, or they're on a flight, and they're just haters. And so anytime, if I'm trying to produce content to help people, and anybody comes onto my platform to negatively talk about the message that I'm trying to deliver to the people who need it most, they get blocked and deleted immediately. Yeah. And that changed my life. I said, if it's okay for him to do that, because you're erasing negativity. Now, the only thing I want to add to that is there's a big difference between having a conversation. Somebody says, hey, I don't necessarily agree with e-collars. Can you explain to me why? That's different.
Right.
I don't have time for that anyway, but it's different. But if somebody is just after you, like there's people who will say, that person sucks. If anybody in the world, especially in the dog training community, says that person sucks, you need to put up a mirror and really audit where that person's great. That person sucks. Really? That person sucks. Are we I've seen grown ass adults pitchfork other trainers in the balanced dog training community and tell them that they suck.
Oh, dude. I won't name these guys because I don't want to give them the clout, but there are so many.
Yeah, they won't be on. They won't be on.
There are so many. Actually, I'm really thinking of like one or two people that.
But there's even beyond that. There's even people in the people who train balanced dog trainers. There's people on the sidelines that don't have they don't have a business. They just train their own dogs.
Right.
And they'll say this stuff. So my point is like,
yep.
It's okay. So it's okay. So mental health is big, and I'm so happy that it's becoming more like relevant. And it's something that everybody needs to be talking about. I'm learning from it every day, trying to navigate through life. I'm exposed to millions of people a day with content that I put out, and just having somebody of that caliber say it's okay to just delete those people out of your life because they're not going to bring anything good. And so for me, that changed a lot for me. I said, oh, so I don't have to fight them. I spent, like, back in the day, dude, when I had like 20,000 followers or 20,000 YouTube subscribers or something, I would be like, people would be so against some of the things that I do, even though the owner's bawling their eyes out, crying because I changed their life.
Right.
I would fight tooth and nail, and it would ruin my day.
Well,
and so,
I think it's one of those universal truths that the reason why it makes total sense, because Goggins is one guy, Joe Rogan's, I'm sure he just wanted to hear Goggins' like reason, because Joe Rogan largely is the same way, just listening to his other stuff. Like he agrees, but it goes way further than that. Tony Robbins, everybody else. And like the reason why they say to vet these people out, because you're right, a disagreement is one thing, but straight up negativity is cancerous. And the reason why a lot of these guys delete this stuff is because Goggins doesn't give a fuck what anybody says. That's a hard man right there. So the reason why he deletes stuff is, and Brent, if you don't know, David Goggins is a SEAL. He has like all kinds of crazy stuff to his. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I know it. Yeah.
So the reason why they delete all this stuff is because they're protecting their viewers from this stuff. They're making sure that there's not all this nonsense, so that they can come watch David Goggins. And if this stuff doesn't help you, then just fuck off. But if it does, then hang out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's just, I just wanted to add that because it was such a big part of my life that I felt like, because there's even people that, like I said before, I keep my circle tight for a reason. There's people that literally will break bread with me and just stab you, like because they just want something out of you or something, and that's just every industry that exists everywhere.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, so I just wanted to say that, like, just block that out and get it out, literally delete it out of your life. If you see it and it kind of like infuriates you, delete it.
For sure.
Don't let it ruin your day.
Can I just mention?
And then yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to mention one last thing that's kind of on par with this, because we were talking about, like, I consider that to be like a universal truth, like I was saying. If it doesn't serve you, just get rid of it immediately.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Yeah.
But I think.
Yeah, and I think. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I thought you were... Another universal truth, and then I'll let you kind of go on it. Is the more you know about how to deal with that kind of thing, the less it stresses you. Because like when you're newer to the whole thing, you don't know how to deal with it. You feel like you have to directly combat it. Because I've been there too. You address it. You do what you know how to do. All right. No, you know what? I'm right, and here's why. But the more like you get that vision and that understanding of it all, you're like, I could engage with you, or I could just block you, or I could just whatever, and you feel more free. I think that's why it doesn't bother you anymore like it did.
Yeah.
For me, there was always this like intrinsic desire, like, no, I have to teach you, or I have to convince you, or I have to help you, because that's our form of help, right? Like it's like anyone who has a belief, like even if you try a good restaurant, you're like, hey, watch this restaurant. Or if you watch a good movie, you're like, watch this movie, and they'll be like, that movie fucking sucked, right? Like we always want to give whatever grace that we find in life to other people, and some people think that's what they're doing when they're pushing us down. It's like putting down a religion or putting down a political view. Well, it's like, come on. And the reality of it is like there are things that we could try and say in those moments to maybe try and convince them. But again, if you're not ready to receive it, you're not ready to receive it. And someone might have to go through 5 other dog trainers and then come back to you and be like,
and that's a skill though that the actual trainer has to learn. If the person's not ready to receive the message, you have to get good at recognizing that and be like, look, man, it's all good. We're just not vibing right now. I don't hate you. It's not a problem, but I'm also not going to waste my time. No disrespect. See you later.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I'm at, is like time for me is so valuable.
Right.
Like with my schedule, time is so valuable. And, back then I had a lot more free time to audit some of these conversations people were having about me. And some of these people have never met me, and they were saying things about me as a person. And it's like, well, that red flag, there you go.
You're right.
And so anyway, I would just say, like, for anybody listening that, is struggling, because you're going to struggle with it. I don't know one person that's on the internet that hasn't struggled with this. Is it's going to happen to you, and you can't take it personally. So that thing with Goggins really helped, was just, these guys are not really about your message, they're about where you're at.
Right.
They see you on a certain level, doesn't matter where it's at, and they don't like it, and they're going to say something. And so anyway, so I would say, for me, like, anybody, I could, there's certain people who, like, guys, like, and I know other trainers deal with this too, there's people who make videos about me, about how much they hate me.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I've seen them.
It's like,
it's like go get good at something.
Do you really not have any other? And some of these people will DM me on Instagram, like, "Hey, did you see the video I made about you?" I'm like, "No, dude, you're a fucking troll. You beat it. Like, stop." So that's like for me, is like, people also see people at whatever level they think that this particular person is, and they also want a little bit deep down inside of a little bit of attention. They're like, kind of want a little bit of attention from you too. And so anyway, and I know I can just tell you, like, if I ever saw anybody that ever said anything negative or bad about me, I still wouldn't care. I'm a genuine human being that respects everybody, and I don't think anybody should say anything, until you've actually sat down and had coffee or had a beer with that person. So, okay, now I can evaluate that person's, whatever.
I really think one thing that this podcast has done for people who don't know you, man, like you're the man. We're friends from right now. We're friends. Like you're a great guy. You have a great heart. You're very passionate. And we just so happen to all be dog trainers. But like, if I met you at a party, we'd be homies. Right. So I really appreciate it. Like, just your vulnerability and your expression, and just your time is valuable. Thank you so much for sharing that time with us, man. Thank you
problem. The only other thing I wanted to just close out with really quickly is, because I've never really said this on the record, and I just wanted to put it on the record. Okay. I just had this.
Let's do it.
I was like, I wanted to.
Exclusive on the Dog Trainers Podcast.
And I just, So America's Canine Educator, the brand, because the first initial thing I told my friend Janine about, she's like, "You're going to get shit for that because you don't know anything about dog training." I said, "I know, but here's the thing. It's when I started, like I said, the conversation I had with my dad is like, you're not a trainer, you're an educator." I said, "You're right." But I was also traveling the country doing pet CPR and first aid certification courses. So I was traveling and doing canine education courses for years before I was a dog trainer. For years, I would set up and I would do Homeland Security. I would do ATF. I would do doggy daycares. I would do boarding. I traveled the country and worked with, so I did that. So America's Canine Educator. So that's the only thing I've never said publicly that I've just wanted to say on like a platform that other dog people would hear, is I didn't create this America's Canine Educator logo to be like, I'm America's Canine Dog Trainer. Right. I was literally traveling the country doing canine CPR and first aid courses with side hustling dog training, being a dog walker, blah, blah, blah. And the conversation I have with my dad is, I'm an educator, but I'm not an upstate educator. I'm not a New York educator. America's Canine Educator. Okay. Yes, that's the only thing I wanted to say is like, I feel so like a bigot, like having this brand on my chest means something to me, but for other people are going to be like, because some people will say, they're like, who the hell is who's this guy? How is he America's Canine Educator? I've been training dogs for 65 freaking years. I'm like, whoa, nope, no. I didn't say I was the best. I didn't say I was the top dog trainer. I didn't say I was America's top dog trainer. All I said is, I'm bigger than New York, and I traveled the country, and I do canine education. And I started it 7 years ago. So that's the only other thing I wanted to add.
I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for letting me. There's a vent. I had to vent that out. I was like, ugh.
Well, yeah. That's amazing. That is amazing.
And breathe.
And breathe.
That's all I wanted to say on this podcast.
Dude, we got, again, off the record, or fuck it, on the record. There's so much good shit in this podcast. That's like, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a young dog trainer.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
And yeah, this is going to be great. I hope we can be on yours one of these days.
Yeah, I'm not as organized as you guys are with that. I literally I literally set up like my recorder, and I'll record like a session, and then I will literally within 10 minutes edit intro, outro, and put it up. You guys are like official. So Yeah, you guys will do good with this because
we can freestyle with the best of them too. So that's
no,
always
and Mariano can freestyle.
Oh yeah, that's not a joke. I can freestyle like a beast.
Rap freestyle.
I believe it.
Yeah, but let's not get started on that. Okay, I'm gonna do an outro and then we'll be done for today. Cool. All right. Where are we? All right. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time, Thomas.
Well, that is my real name, so it's not.
All right. We want to give a big thank you to Tommy Davis from Upstate Canine Academy. Again, he just shared this awesome story as why he is American Canine Educator. Guys, we really love the content in this particular episode in particular. If you guys felt the exact same way, please share this with at least one other person. It could be a dog trainer friend. It could be a client of yours. It could be someone who's interested in dog training. Just share this with one other person because there is so much advice, stories, anecdotes, just good feeling that this episode brought us. And I want to just thank everyone for listening all around the world. We really appreciate your guys' support. If you guys are listening to us and you guys also like us, please go ahead and tag us at Dog Trainers Podcast. If you guys have any questions, email us, dogtrainerspodcast@gmail.com, or just DM us or hit us up on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you guys. Again, this is episode 26, our interview with Tommy Davis. Thank you guys so much. Also, stay tuned for next week because we have two sisters from Ecuador who are amazing dog trainers, who are actually kind of trend setting certain styles of dog training in South America. We have Melissa and Vanessa Velez on next week. So please check out episode 27. Tommy, thank you so much for being on, my friend.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you, man. See you, man.
Peace,
have a good
brother.
Later.
Bye-bye. We really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we hope to see you back for the next one. But in the meantime, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Dog Trainers Podcast. Go ahead and leave a comment. Ask us any questions that you want. We would love to connect with our dog trainer communities all around the world. Take care, guys. We'll see you next time.